take a moment and try to figure out what the most commonly asked question on my Facebook page is. My name is Steve Smith, this is TQA Weekly, and can I play this video game? Is actually one of the most common questions asked to me on my Facebook page, and considering we are 2016, I'm not even surprised. Now, a lot of the people actually asking me these questions are asking me about AAA titles like Grand Theft Auto 5. Let's talk about the 3 different scenarios of computers related to games like that. And I want you to remember that when you go to a game publisher's website, they normally tell you what the minimum specification and the recommended specification of your computer should be. And most of the time, quad-core processor, 8 gigs of RAM, and a high-speed storage device. You know, a hard drive or an SSD. That's normally what they're asking for, on top of the graphics card as well. But there are people that legitimately only use onboard graphics. So in the case of AAA titles today, that kind of build suffers from the issue of not being able to process the image fast enough. While you can buy the game, download it, and try to run it, there are some game developers that will not let you run the game unless you actually have a dedicated graphics card. In this case, I normally suggest to the people to buy a graphics card or to go dumpster diving and find a graphics card or borrow a graphics card or even try to get one of their friends to give their old graphics card to them to see if that will at least play the video game while they collect the money to buy a better graphics card. Needless to say, knowing what the refund policy of the video game market you're buying from is going to be very important when you don't even have a computer that meets the specifications. You can try buying it, you can try playing it, but when we think about it, a computer that uses onboard graphics doesn't usually play modern AAA titles. If you're one of those that has a computer like that but has a dedicated graphics card, I know plenty of people that don't meet the minimum specifications for some games that will take a hit in the texture quality and even in some of the FPS, but will still play the game, still love the game. And if you're one of those kinds of people that don't care about 60 FPS, that like the adventure, then go for it. Just keep in mind what the refund policy is of the market you're buying the video game from. And if your computer does have some issues and you don't have the money to buy a graphics card, you can refund it in most cases. In the case that you have the money to buy a new graphics card, just make sure that you buy one according to the minimum or the recommended spec depending on your budget. Obviously, I would prefer you actually get the recommended spec. They will usually last longer for more generations of games, but your budget is your budget and it's up to you. Now, the third tier is the crazy people like me, where we overbuilt our computers basically to make sure that we don't have to spend as much money over the long term, what we call future-proofing. In our case, we're just curious to see just how far our computer has been able to play to this date. Obviously, we're going to end up having to upgrade our computers, but when is a definite question. What's actually going to plague us more is the fact that textures, as they become more and more, how do we say, realistic, will require more video memory on board of our graphics cards. So if you're one of those that has a 512 or 1 gig graphics card, you might have trouble playing today's games. Where some people with 2 or 4 gig graphics cards are just now starting to see stuttering and some graphics detail issues that require them to lower the texture quality of the video game. So keeping this in mind, eventually your hardware will depreciate in ability to play video games, but usually speaking, the best configuration of a computer to play video games is one that has a quad core, 8 gigs of RAM, a dedicated graphics card, and a fairly fast hard drive, preferably an SSD, because that will deliver the information that your computer needs to play the video game faster. The slower the storage device is, the longer you wait for stuff such as loading time. Now, if you like this episode, like it, dislike it if you didn't, share with those that you think can benefit from this, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to ask me any questions, comments, make suggestions for topics, email me at ask@tqaweekly.com or go to my website, tqaweekly.com, for everything else. And if you want to make this show better, go to Patreon, patreon.com/TQA Weekly, and patrons get these episodes 24 hours in advance of everyone else. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.